Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. We're going to open line, Mannin line today. Call 66 13 68. Text or WhatsApp 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. That's a follow on yesterday regarding the rates. Talking about rates and their inequity. I'm the same as that man. Says texter 381. I live in a 2-bed bungalow and my friends live down the road in a 5-bedroom house. Their rates bill is much less than mine. I pay over £2,000. I queried it but got nowhere. It's very hard. I live on my own. Got to pay a lot per month, says Karen. Well, and again, we came to the conclusion yesterday. Nobody seems to be taking this up. No, but there have been efforts in the past to equalise rates or to make them kind of appear equal, but you get anomalies like this: a 2-bed bungalow, over £2,000, and a friend just down the road in a 5-bedroom house paying much less. So what do we do? Are we paying twice for services? Says 223. Council rates cover upkeep, rubbish collection, street lighting, etc. Government rates say that government rates cover these costs. On the Isle of Man, this is the link to it, property rates collected by the Isle of Man Government Treasury fund essential public utilities, local community upkeep and environmental services provided across the Isle of Man. Infrastructure, utilities, water supply services managed by Manx Utilities Authority, sewerage collection and treatment, street lighting maintenance in local districts, waste and environmental services, refuse collection, household rubbish, disposal, recycling programs, civic community, recycling, street cleaning, road sweeping and gully emptying, community and local amenities, burial grounds, local churchyard maintenance, parks, playgrounds, public open spaces, public conveniences, and local car parking facilities. So there we are. If you want to find out more, just go to the Isle of Man online rate service and find out. That's what happens. And there's so much of the confusion between what's government's responsibility and what is the local authority's responsibility. And you've heard the councillors and commissioners we've had on Mannin Line bemoaning this because they often get, they get it in the neck from constituents, members of the public, who complain about things over which they have no control. And conversely, government often gets it in the neck from constituents, members of the public, and they complain about things over which they have no control. I'm not saying it's easy to deflect, but you kind of get the picture that it is quite easy to point the other way and say, well, that's a local authority issue, or that's a central government issue. A note in from Peter just said, even if global warming is natural, should mankind knowingly add more greenhouse gases to the atmosphere when we don't need to? Well, I don't know, Peter. That's your question. What do you think? The point that was made yesterday is that we contribute a fraction of a percent to global emissions. I mean, we are not industrialized in any way. Since all the mines went in the 19th century, what do we do? What do we make? The UK, less than 2% of global emissions. So we don't contribute much. So we can cut our emissions back to the bone and it wouldn't make a ha'porth of difference. I mean, it makes us look good and we can parade our credentials to all and sundry in the world. Whether or not it makes any difference, we don't quite know. John's with us now. Hi, John.
Hello there, Andy. Yes, I after I'd been on the show the other day, I listened to it the following day, and was, I must say, unsurprised to hear the last person who spoke basically decrying pretty much everything I'd said, basically saying, oh no, the Manx Development Corporation didn't come in on budget, they went £2 million over budget. Now, I've just talked to Dane Harrop, and he's confirmed basically what I know, that no.
You spoke to Dane Harrop?
Yes.
Oh, does he actually exist? Because we've asked him several times to come on Mannin line, and he hasn't replied to us.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, you should phone up and have a chat with him. But yes, I mean, he confirmed pretty much what I said. I mean, basically that the evolved budget, because you must remember this was not a new build, this was a renovation, an extension of a very old building, and basically the structural problems they found, although initially there'd been, I believe, a budget was looked to be around 9 million, when the extent of the structural problems in the retained elements of the building became apparent, the budget was set at 11 million, and they came in on that budget. So what was said that day was totally wrong. Now, the other thing was that this is something I've been getting a lot for some years now, and I'm sure it comes from sort of vested interest parties in the construction industry over here about modular construction, that it's all a load of rubbish, it's this, that and the other. And I mean, that the person who phoned in the other day basically went on about, it's going to, put workers out of work, and it's going to do this, and it's do that, and the shipping's going to cost more. Now, the interesting thing, we looked at all the relevant cost of shipping of modular and of masonry products, and the beauty of the system that we use is that it's not effectively the modular to the extent you get a complete room with a lot of air. It's actually individual panels which are very carefully put together, so you can actually it's very cost effective to ship. Now, we've worked out that there was certainly no more shipping flatbeds being used for modular than are currently being used for masonry construction. And in fact, one thing I mean, this issue about concrete blocks and things has sort of come into the high. Now, I talked to someone who told me that in fact the reason people are bringing concrete blocks over from across, notwithstanding the cost of shipping, is because they are significantly cheaper than buying them on the island. Because don't forget, we only manufacture blocks in relatively small volume, whereas the companies in the UK are making millions and millions of blocks with all the latest state-of-the-art equipment. Now, I haven't got into the actual figures, but, that's something there. But one of the things is that people fail to recognise with modular is that once all the teams are trained, and it's not going to take that much. I mean, the college has already said that they'd love to get involved. You can effectively build 3 to 4 modular houses in the time it takes to build one masonry house. Now, the advantage of that is that you get the teams putting up the frames and everything, and then you're going to need more plumbers, electricians, carpenters to finish off the interior. So that in its turn is going to create more jobs, and that's going to create the demand for more young people to be trained up in these trades with a guaranteed work there. It's going to, and I mean, from the effect on our biosphere of doing something of getting government to legislate for modular would be wonderful.
So you think that it would create some sort of industry here?
Oh God, it would. Well, we could lead the world. Look, I talked to Miata Fumbala last year, who's currently the net zero minister in Andy Burnham's government, and they were interested in the system. But what was explained to me by someone else I talked to was that effectively, because of the vested interest groups in producing masonry products in the UK, it would be extremely difficult there to legislate directly for it. Now, one of the things that the manufacturer of the foundation system has done, it's a modular sustainable foundation system which is made from high-density polystyrene. They've designed a module which has an extension on it that you can put a concrete ring beam around the outside, so that you can clad these highly sustainable modular frames with masonry, should you so wish.
What sort of chance do you think you've got of this becoming prevalent on the Isle of Man?
Well, I mean, I'm extending. I've now got 3 candidates who I've made our research available to, and I'm looking at the candidates in every ward and basically trying to identify, because there's a lot of well-intentioned people standing for the House this year, but the point is, as unless they have the relevant expertise to make to hit the ground running and really get things in the Isle moving ahead, I think we need to say, thanks very much for taking the trouble, but you don't, yes, you might be well intentioned, but you don't have the necessary skills. That you certainly don't have the experience in central government, but it's the fact that we can't spend the time for you to learn the ropes. We need people who understand exactly what's involved or have areas in expertise that we desperately need in government.
Okay, all right.
And I mean, we have some. I mean, someone like Chris Thomas. I mean, making Chris Treasury Minister was, I don't know why he hasn't been Treasury Minister for years, because he has, financial experience at a global level, and yet, unfortunately, it's too much about character and who you get on with, so on and so forth at the moment in politics, not just here, but in pretty much everywhere, I suppose.
Okay. All right.
And so...
All right, John. We appreciate your call. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for giving that update on that. And you mentioned Chris Thomas, who, of course, is standing in Douglas Central. Also standing in Douglas Central is Ann Corlett, George Hargreaves, Andrea Kruger, Peter Shimmin and Devon Watson. More messages in, including just a thought: has the Ben McCree been prepared for sale with these cheap renovations and no longer user-friendly for the Isle of Man passengers, i.e. cabin-free Ben McCree? No cabins, all you got to do is sit downstairs. It seems it's only useful now for short-haul trips. Maybe they have a buyer, says Ali. Well, they need it at the moment, and who knows? I mean, there are all sorts of rumours and skeet about when Manxman's going to be coming back. Now, Steam Packet has said September. Is it the start of September, end of September? And I have to tell you, you've probably heard the skeet and the rumour as well, that it could be the end of the year before Manxman's back. Now, the official word at the moment is September. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We know it's going to be happening in Camel Laird, but at the moment, and remember, after August bank holiday, the topic of conversation on the Isle of Man is, what are you doing for Christmas? Whether you are heading off, whether you've got relatives coming to the Isle of Man, and if we're cabin free on the Ben McCree at Christmas time, can you imagine? Can you imagine if the Ben McCree? So we await to hear what the news is regarding the Manxman, what the prognosis is, and when she's going to be back. And it will be interesting to know how much it's going to cost. Accommodation providers on the island say they don't believe disruption to the sailings has caused a huge impact on the Manx Grand Prix. So a bouquet for the Steam Packet. Many visitors have had their travel arrangements changed as a result of Manxman being out of action. Despite concerns that it might cause people to put off travelling to the Isle of Man, it seems that our motorsport fans have preserved. Cheryl Curfey co-owns Balaff Campsite.
We're really busy. It's good. I think it's our busiest Grand Prix since we took over a couple of years ago. It's definitely up on last year. We've had people arriving since probably the weekend. We started getting people in that are coming for the bikes. Today and tomorrow it significantly jumps up. So yeah, we've got kind of 20 or so arrivals each day. So I'd say by the weekend, the middle weekend, we definitely are, I would say, more than 80% full. So it's good. And I do think possibly the change of the schedule is definitely bringing people back from last year, with it being more of a 2-week festival again. And I also think, unfortunately, I think that people came for the TT, had a pretty crap time because of the weather, and booked to come for Grand Prix. We've got several people that kind of felt they were a little bit robbed at TT, so booked to come again for now. So that's obviously played into our cards for that. It's good.
Well, what have you heard about this? That's Cheryl Curfew from Belaf Campsite. Have you heard of anybody who didn't much like what happened in TT? Well, it was a bit wet, wasn't it, after the first week, and came back for TT. From the Welbeck Hotel, Michael George.
It's actually doesn't seem, I don't know how they've done this, because I was expecting chaos, but so far, I mean, they've changed a few people, so they've had to come on the overnight and squeeze on and things like that. But so far, for actual Grand Prix, we've lost very little.
So, I mean, in terms of the MGP then, how are your numbers looking?
Pretty good. We haven't really started quite as strongly as we did last year for the first kind of 3-4 days, but then it jumps up to full and nearly full. Goes right the way through to the Friday night of the second week, and then we've got a bit of a hole the week following, because last year, just looking at it, the bowls followed straight on. This year there's a week's gap. It must be the way it's worked out with the bank holiday being on last year it was on the 31st of August. I know this year it's on last year it was on the 25th, so I don't know if that's affected things.
Michael George there with his take on what exactly has happened and how much it's affected the situation on the island, with the maximum being away. They've obviously done a lot of work and worked around with Ben McCree and with Mannin. And also regarding TT, as a classic TT and MGP, we've had some notes in also about people parking motorhomes, including drivers who are parking motorhomes on Douglas Promenade. They've all had notices to say overnight habitation isn't permitted on Douglas Promenade at any time, anywhere on Douglas Promenade. Parking in the area is restricted to 16 in any 24 hours, and so they've been told to remove their vehicle after the time has expired. Alternatively, they can park on Marine Drive, Parade Street, Pay and Display car park, or on dedicated campsites. Has this happened anywhere where you are, where people have been parking motorhomes for a lot longer than they should, simply because of TT and MGP? I've had lots of correspondence in regarding the situation at the prison 7 days after a protest took place at the facility in Derby. Details of what happened are unclear. What's known is that a week last Tuesday, 11th of August, several prisoners refused to leave the exercise yard and return to their cells at the conclusion of the allotted time. Beyond that, the events of the day are in dispute. One side says one thing, others say another. The assertion that the protest was peaceful and about the provision of food, water and medication has been disputed. Here's one source whose son is one of the prisoners currently in segregation.
At the moment, it's around 23 and a half hours a day.
When they're allowed out then, is that literally just onto the exercise yard?
Sometimes it's only 15 minutes. Otherwise you might be allowed out for a bit longer to get a shower. Sometimes you're not even allowed out for exercise or a shower. Sometimes it can be 24 hours pure lockup. Well, they're saying it's because of staff shortages, yet when this incident happened, there was around 40 to 50 staff turned up to deal with it. So it seems quite amazing that they're short-staffed but can call that many people in for a peaceful protest.
What did your son tell you in terms of what happened then on the day? So they refused to come in from the exercise yard then to start?
Yeah, because of the excessive lockup. Then they sort of asked to speak to the governor, and, that's not happened. There was an incident of a window being smashed. I think they'd barricaded one of the doors. This had led to staff still being able to come out and speak to them. They'd asked for water, they'd asked for food, which was denied. People in the bottom cells were trying to pass water through the windows, but the windows there don't open. They just adjusted, but they were trying to funnel water through them. And because the ones in the bottom cell were doing this, the water was actually turned off to the cells to stop them having water, even though they've stated that prisoners were offered food, water and medication throughout the protest. They weren't. The place is run horribly, and I'm not saying that's down to staff. It's definitely down to management. Some of the staff are actually brilliant, but they're few and far between. It needs an independent investigation again to show, because the last time they had an inspectorate over, there were so many things wrong with the place, and none of these things have changed since.
Oh, there we have one opinion. I just wonder what you think about all this. At the moment, DHA, Department of Home Affairs, is not saying much about it. We don't know. That's one side that you've heard. Now, when we hear from government, when we get an official word, we'll let you know. But I've been getting lots and lots of messages in, some of them not very complimentary, it has to be said. But if you want to add to the pot, by all means, do get in touch.
Manx Mobility in Onken have it all. Daily living aids, wide-fitting shoes, rise recliners, beds and scooters, including lightweight and airline-approved models. Call in and see how our expert team can make your life easier. Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill.
Corkhill Removals and Storage today. Loads big and small, day after day. We'll help you move, we'll help you pack. With a local or global, we've got the knack. Click corkhillremovals.com.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
If you have children, pets or a house, talk to Peace of Mind about a will or power of attorney, which will help family members when it matters. Prices from $199 plus VAT. Find us on Facebook or call 632 610.
Your place is so much better with Ace.
Kids, pets, messy partners. Your furniture goes through a lot, so it's time to freshen things up with something stylish, something sturdy, something built for real life. Ace Home and Ace Carpets are always full of Ace ideas. Come and explore our huge showroom Monday to Saturday. Middle River Industrial Estate, Douglas, or find us on Facebook.
Your place is so much better with Ace.
Do you ever listen to the news and feel you can't see light at the end of the tunnel? Then may I recommend Spotlight, Manx Radio's arts programme, where the focus is purely on the brightest artistic talent on the Isle of Man, whether that be poetry, music, drama, literature, or any of a myriad of other artistic pursuits. Spotlight, every Wednesday evening after the home run, and of course all episodes available as a podcast via your usual podcast provider. Let there be light. Spotlight on Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Our WhatsApper sent a message in. I live in a 3-bed bungalow, 1 bathroom as a sole occupier. Next door is exactly the same with 4 adults occupying the property. I don't think it's fair that we pay the exact same rates and also water rates. There should be a discount of at least 25% surely for sole occupancy. Again, that's something that's been mentioned many, many times. And we've gone nowhere. About time the council tenants pay proper rates if they can afford the latest motorhomes and electric cars sitting outside most of the council estates. It should be the same like it is in the UK, where you go to prison in the UK if you don't pay your council tax. I thought, well, somebody said yesterday, I got a message in from this WhatsApper who says somebody said that local authority tenants don't pay rates. Well, somebody who used to work in the authority, I can confirm that all tenants have the rates added to their weekly rent. These tenants also don't get the benefit of being able to get a discount as their rates are paid over the whole year. So their answer is they do. Hello, Sue.
Hi, Andy. Prisoners. Now, this subject is annoying me a bit because to me, I mean, it might sound a bit archaic, my attitude towards this, but to me, the prisoners are in prison because they've committed crime. So all of this thing about whether they're allowed out of the cells for half an hour or a few hours, or, I mean, nobody's stated what the actual proper allotted time is. I tried to look it up. I did a little bit of Googling, so whether the information I've got is right or not, I don't know. But you can't find out from Google or any other sources, prison sources or anything, as to what the allotted time should be that they're out of their cells. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they've committed a crime. They're in prison because they've committed a crime or allegedly committed a crime and been found guilty of that crime, and so they've gone to prison. So why are they protesting? You know, if you don't want to be in a situation like that, don't commit the crime. Don't be a bad person. Don't break laws and be caught for it. You know, I mean, I did a little bit of digging, like I say, and they get an awful lot more than your average Joe on the street gets. They can get, if they behave themselves, they can get free education, most of the basic stuff, like maths and language and things like that. But they can also have free courses on how to learn a trade. Well, you can't get that anywhere else. You only get that if you're a prisoner. And I watched the video that Paul Moulton, is it? He did one about what happens when you go into the prison and how you're treated and the things that you get. And it showed you around the cell and everything like that. And I mean, they get his video, I mean, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, from all of the conspiracy theories that are coming up about the protest and everything. But it showed that they get good, decent meals. They get 3 meals a day. They have clean cells. If they keep them clean, they can choose to do a job. They're not allotted a job. They aren't told, oh, you have to go into the laundry and you have to go and work in the kitchens. They choose whether they want to go and do that. They are paid for those jobs. And, you know, so to me, it just seems that they're getting a lot more than people who aren't criminals, who don't break the law and get caught for it, and who aren't in prison. People who struggle every day to afford their food, to afford their bills, to afford to keep, you know, their heating and keep themselves warm. For people like that, they can't go ahead and go and get free courses on how to become tradespeople. They can get a very basic course on, I think it's maths and language, but that is dependent on a few bits of criteria. But that's the only free thing that they can get, especially through the UCM. You know, I mean, it just annoys me that people in prison are turning around and saying, oh, woe is us. We've been naughty people. We've been put in prison. We're getting free food, free heat, free cleaning, free this, free that, free the other. That, oh, we're not allowed outside of our cells, so we'll protest.
Well,
and
at the moment, Sue, we don't know, because the Department for Home Affairs isn't saying anything. What we've heard is that there was a protest and that Department says that it was peaceful, and other people have got the opinion that it wasn't, and this, that and the other. Now, we don't know. And I say, I've had all sorts of correspondence from people who tell me all sorts of things that, you know, it could be the people from the UK who are geeing things up inside, that the Manx prisoners aren't doing much, but the ones from the UK know more how to instigate stuff like this. But we don't know. And obviously the Department for Home Affairs has got a reason that they're not releasing any information. And at the moment we have to respect that. However, you know, people are asking questions about, you know, what's happening at the prison.
They may be asking questions, and like you say, we know there was a protest, whether it was a peaceful protest or not a protest. But it's like I say, at the end of the day, they're prisoners. They're in prison for a point because they broke the law. If you don't want to be in prison and you don't want to be put into situations where you might not be allowed out of your cell for the allotted time, then don't break the law. You know, there are many, many law-abiding citizens living on this island who don't break the law, who struggle every day. That's what I'm saying, is these prisoners are in there getting free food, free medication, free this, free that. They're even being given the option of having a vote this time. You know, and it annoys me that they are in that situation getting all of these free things, and then you have people, I work with people who rely on the food bank, who can't afford, maybe a week before their next payday, can't even afford a pint of milk because they don't earn enough, because they're having to pay the bills and they don't have enough food.
So what do you think about the statement, the position that the rights of wrongdoers are the price for a civilized society? Wrongdoers do have rights.
I think they have so many rights. they obviously must have a right to food and warmth and things like that. But I've always had the attitude, when you see all these big riots, usually in the UK prisons and things, and they burn the prison down and things like that, I've always thought, well, let them live in it for a while. They've caused the damage to the property. Let them live in it. And my attitude when this report first came out and they said, oh, we're out in the exercise yard. Well, I mean, they were out there. They were allowed out of the cell. So what are they protesting about? Oh, we're not allowed out for enough time. But you are allowed out because you were out there when you refused to go back in. So, it's just one of those continuous things that they're really kicking themselves. Because, I mean, I read that they have a meeting once a month that they're supposed to go over things like this. Well, surely there must be a way of sorting these things out without the prisoners having to get themselves really some bad press. I mean, I can appreciate that the families of the prisoners will think, oh, poor old prisoners, poor our families and everything, but it doesn't do them any favours in the eyes of people like myself. It
may do as well, Sue. They may have committed offences, and those offences may carry another custodial sentence. So they could be adding time to their sentence anyway.
Exactly. They're not doing themselves any favours in the eyes of the public, especially in the eyes of people who have a similar opinion to myself. You're in prison because you broke the law. You're in prison because you were caught. You're in prison and you're getting lots and lots and lots of free things that people on the street, normal residents of the island don't get.
Okay. All right.
Which I think is that's a crime in itself.
All right. So we appreciate your call. Thanks for being with us today.
Okay, Andy, thank you.
24 minutes before 1, and a note in from David who said the public needs to start looking at burial ground rates, which tend to be a small amount added to the rate demand issued by the Treasury, and as such don't get scrutinised. Now, the burial ground rates are set by the local burial ground authorities, who appear to be the church wardens of the relative parish, who are unelected and do not appear to be answerable to anybody. They set the annual rate at an amount that's expected to cover their expenditure in the following year, but they don't take account of any surplus from previous years' under expenditure. And David said, I've seen accounts for one burial ground authority that has run a surplus of income over expenditure for a number of years, so much that it has reserves approaching £500,000, whereas the annual rate income is a little over 120,000. It's time to get rid of this archaic setup, the burial ground rates. I did time, says Pat, I did time in the early 70s in Victoria Road for fighting. Now, that was a prison, and not many went back. We had no phones, no TV, no internet. We had no drugs. After 8 p.m, your cell door was locked down, and if you wanted to use the toilet, you had a bucket to use. If you shared a cell with 3 other people, it wasn't a nice smell for 12 hours. We also got taken out on work parties, shoveling rotten scallop shells into farm drainage channels for 8 hours. We learnt the hard way, says Pat. Well, any thoughts on this? Please get in touch. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And we've got Juan with us now. Hi, Juan.
How was your weekend, Andy?
It was very good, thanks, Juan, yes. Good.
How many weeks ago was it now you done the prison interview?
Oh, it's got to be 4 or 5 weeks ago.
4 or 5, yeah.
It was, yes. It wasn't raining, so you can gauge it by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Winter hadn't started. I remember coming on a couple of weeks before when you announced you were doing that, and I said to you then that there was problems down at the prison. And the question I asked then, and you said, does she need to be there? Why the minister is not visiting the prison and why she's not down there? And now we've got problems there. And I'm not talking about the prisoners per se. I'm talking about management. There is problems at management. You've got good prison warders down there. But as we've got problems with Manx care at higher levels in management, we've got the same problem there. And I do hope that this gets looked at a little bit closer. Like I said, there's relevant questions to be asked there which weren't asked down at the prison. They put the right people forward. Some of them were okay, but some of them were put there in place to answer your questions. So, you know, there was problems there. I've foreseen that coming. I said last week about Change Isle of Man. So they announced yesterday that they're now standing for in different areas. So I think there's more names to be announced this week. So that's out there now. But I was interested to see Mitch Sorbay's interview the other week with one of the competitors, saying that he's now folded his campaign and his party. So I found that quite interesting that we've got one there and the other one's failed, and he said that the people who were interested are now standing independent. And I've said right along, Andy, I've been asked by numerous people about standing, and I've said as an independent in this particular time that we are in politics, and especially here, you have to go in as an alliance. I'm not saying a party, but an alliance of people with a strong value, a 10-point agenda of change that you stick to, because nothing's going to change otherwise. And I do hope that all them people in the parties and anyone that's standing get an alliance of people together that will work together to bring this out of where we are at the moment.
You don't think the old Manx situation of 24 MHKs who kind of coalesce, they find common ground with each other? Do you not think that works?
We have to, you know what, I mean, I've spoken to so many people and I've been asked to stand for different parties and I've declined it because if I'd have to give so much time over at the moment to get this problem right that's in there. And it can be fixed, but you've got to get rid of all this absolute nonsense of DEIs, ESGs, all this ridiculous stuff that these governments and civil servants are complying to. It's absolute utter nonsense. There's climate change agenda, there's carbon, utter rubbish. Like we've said before, Andy, it hardly even touches the sides with what we're talking about.
But
here,
don't you think, I mean, the thing is that, Jewin, the Isle of Man is an international island. We all know that. It's an international finance centre. It's a low-tax jurisdiction that relies on international finance and people, working together. So, we can't kind of just kick back and say, we disagree with this, the rest of the world is wrong, we're going to go on, because some of those big companies may say, well, you're not really keeping up with the trend. You're not really on message with everybody else. So we'll go to Gibraltar, we'll go to Jersey, we'll go to Guernsey, we'll go elsewhere. So we may end up with international companies leaving us because of that.
Listen, at the end of the day, Andy, I mean, that means your companies, your insurance companies, your big companies are controlling everything, are controlling your government. So what's the point in having 24 people in there if they're controlling it? So the shoe's on the wrong foot there to start with. These people have got far too much control, these multinational companies and globalist agendas. If the conditions of business is right here, they're going to stay here. You know what I mean? Regardless of carbon and all this business, we stand our ground to a certain extent. And like we said before, we've lost common sense. That's what we've lost here. First death of COVID was common sense. It really was. And on talking about that, we're talking about the Manx Development Company. Let's just drop onto that. 2025, their audit account, 690,000 was a financial loss for the audit accounts 2024, 859,000 operating loss. Now, I was at the meeting with Jane Harrop when this was questioned right at the start, and that was down at the Legion Club. And I sat at near the front with Al Kane, and Al Kane asked the questions, then relevant questions of how does this stack up? This 10 million. It's all right, John, saying they were on budget, but the budget was wrong to start with, because the question was asked, how can you make this development pay on that budget? And quite rightly, this is what's happening now, £2,000 rent. How can people afford that? Who's in there paying that kind of money? And the cost of it, if you wanted to resell these properties, just the interest repayment alone, it didn't add up and it never made sense. So for anyone to say it was on budget, well, the budget was wrong to start with. It just, accountability, it just didn't add up.
Well, what I've heard from the inside, as I say, Mr. Harrop has, doesn't really want to come on Mannin Line. He hasn't replied to the emails. But I've heard rumours, again, within Manx Development Corporation, that they're complaining that the government's tying their shoelaces together, that they can't get any land. They want to move forward. They've got a plan, but the trouble is the government and relevant departments are hanging on to the land. So they can't get any more land to release to get moving. One of the things about a big construction company, and that's what it is it has to have momentum. And they don't seem to have momentum. They're mired in the old nurses' home.
And I see what you're saying. I mean, like Tavia here now, private companies and Kel Properties, they get on with what they're doing. It's business, and time costs money. So I understand that government are probably causing a problem here in Treasury, probably the same as what it is with the steam packet. There's a quiet remit of how they operate. And this is the problem. We haven't got any transparency in that. So we're looking at the problem from what we know, and not what's actually happening in there. But you can't hide the figures that they were dealt with the CLAG, I think they call it. It was just over budgeted right from the start.
And what's happened to the cafe as well?
Well, what's happened to the cafe? Yeah. There's another good question. The modular home situation, and we've said before about housing crisis here. We spoke about this for years on this program, and David Ashford's been on here about housing crisis. How much amount of affordable housing is actually being given over among all the kerfuffle and all the figures that they give out? How much affordable housing? What do they call affordable housing now? I mean, to me, I would be getting some kind of brownfield or greenfield site somewhere, or the Northern Plains or somewhere, where you can put down a flatbed of concrete and put down a floating foundation and put some modular homes on there. Now, modular homes are massive in America, and I know we've got damp problems here to sort out and all that kind of problems, but in there they've got termite problems, they've got all sorts of problems to work with modular homes, and they survive 50, 60 years. So if we're talking about solving our housing crisis and housing problem, have some kind of setup. I think in Guernsey, remind me if I'm wrong, Andy, there's areas in Guernsey where only Alwinians can live. They're not open to the outside public to buy, right. And the prices are discounted, so the local people get cheaper housing. It can't be sold to anyone who is not an islander or an Alwinian, as they call them. I think I'm right in that, Andy, am I?
I'm not familiar with that situation, but
yeah. I'm pretty confident on that there is areas that have been there several times. And so why don't we do that for our local people? Why don't we say, listen, we're going to dedicate an area here. It can't be resold to anyone outside the island. You've had to have been here. You have to be a Malaman resident and bring some housing in. Now, John was talking about these houses, and I know he likes promoting his houses quite a lot. And I think he bandied a figure around a while ago of 110,000 for the price of these houses that he built. This is affordable, and I've got friends in Wales who manufacture these and put them up, and they're more of a metal design, so they're a lot more hardier to the weather and everything. So it's doable if you really want to do it. Right. It's if there's an appetite for it. Okay. The appetite here is for block-built houses, because Hartford and Dandara want that. But if we're going to solve this problem, let's get some kind of site there and get one of these here modular home places up, okay, and experiment with it. At least, if nothing else, it's going to get the vulnerable people into some housing of some kind. If we're going to call it an emergency, let's act on it and do something.
All right, Joan. Good to hear from you today. Thanks for that. It's 12 minutes before 1. You mentioned David Ashford, who's standing in Douglas North. Also, the other candidates are Jason Cheetham, Damien Chappelli, Janet Tomoney, Peter Washington, and Hugo Yates.
There's monkeys and meerkats, penguins galore. You can meet with a panda, owls, lemurs, and more.
The Carax Wildlife Park is open 7 days a week. So book your tickets and experiences online now at caraxwildlifepark.im.
Now is your chance to recognise inspirational individuals and groups making a real difference on the Isle of Man with the Heroes of Man Awards, brought to you by A Little Piece of Hope charity. From quiet acts of kindness to outstanding community work, nominate your hero or heroes at alittlepieceofhope.com/nominations. That's That's a littlepieceofhope.com/nominations. Nominations close Sunday the 30th of August, with the awards ceremony late January 2027. Details coming soon. This advert has been kindly supported by Cayman National Bank in the Isle of Man, rewarding relationships built on trust, and your nation's station, Manx Radio.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and Mannin van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway summer timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Alex is with us now. Hello, Alex.
Hello, sir. As you know, I've only appeared once on Mannin Line. I'm a bit reluctant to do so. And these are entirely my opinions, but it's been prompted by an article in the paper, the Crossvein Mine Silt Plan. Well, this is the end product, or a path on the pathway from Peel Marina, which was not a sensible site, not a situation. It is turned into or changed from an area of low pollution going out to sea in low concentrations to virtually a heavy metal enrichment plant, which created all sorts of problems. First of all, they moved the stuff to Poortown, then the lagoon, and now they're talking about the Crossvein Mine Silt Plan. There's been clear lack of research, in my opinion, and even the term silt is incorrectly used, which you don't really expect when you're reading something official. Silt is particle size from about 0.002 millimeters to 0.05, and it's made up of quartz, feldspars, and mica, which are relatively not harmful.
Okay, Alex, I'm terribly sorry we're going to leave you there because your line is breaking up awfully. We're only getting about one word in three. We'll call you back at some point and we'll go through that again. Regarding building in the Isle of Man, this note in is only products that are 100% local in construction on the Isle of Man are locally quarried stone in its various forms, sand, gravels and stone. If the island wants to be carbon neutral, shouldn't we be using more locally sourced and produced materials and not be relying on imported materials, says this correspondent. And a note in from Adam, who said there are 5 key questions that all prospective MHKs need to answer. Number 1, will they end all immigration? Number 2, will they build social housing and affordable housing for Manx people? Number 3, will they stop all wind farm developments in and around the Isle of Man? Number 4, will they protect the countryside and keep Manx farmers farming? And number 5, will they diversify the economy to provide decent jobs for all ordinary Manx people who do not have A-levels or degrees? That's Adam's 5 questions that he thinks you should be asking prospective MHKs. Have they been knocking at your door lately? A notice, and this one says, let me see, just a point of view regarding the last comment about prisoners. There are people in there on remand. One chap recently was in there for a year. At the trial, the jury found him not guilty, so free to go. So not everybody in the prison is a convicted criminal, says Charles. A quick word about Amnesty International on the Isle of Man. The Amnesty Isle of Man group has raised concerns over documents which reveal more than a year of lobbying, they say, by the Commonwealth Jewish Council before government adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. From the Manx Radio newsroom, Sam Turton's been looking at this.
A Freedom of Information response containing 17 documents of correspondence follows Amnesty IOM's concerns that it first raised after the CJC sent an intervention letter to the Chief Minister in July 2025. The campaign group said the document showed sustained contact between the Switzerland-based organisation and Alfred Buchanan throughout 2025, urging the government to adopt the definition in full and without caveats. Amnesty IOM said the decision appeared to have been made under significant external pressure and urged the government to ensure the definition is never used to restrict free expression or peaceful protest.
Well, we'll hear more about that from Amnesty Isle of Man when the government gets back to us. We'll tell you all about it. Just regarding this Tesco thing, if you bought anything at Tesco lately, you get a little ticket off your receipt that says you're in a draw to win a prize. Now, there have been some rogue emails coming to the Isle of Man which say, congratulations, you've won the Tesco gift card grand prize of £1,000 autumn gifts contest. Do not click on where it says marketing at tesco.co.uk. It's a scam email, and you'll know that if you look at the address from which the email comes. So always look at the address of any email that promises you the world, and then you'll be able to find out more. But in the meantime, do not. And if you have clicked on it, watch out for your computer. That Tesco draw email. Tomorrow, Chris Stockport's going to be in. Chris is the interim chief exec of Manx Care. Of course, Teresa Cope was the chief exec for a few years, and she's now in Guernsey. Chris Stockport, previously medical director, Dr. Stockport is in tomorrow. If there's anything you'd like to put to Dr. Stockport, you could either call, email, text and WhatsApp tomorrow, or in the meantime, you can get a message in simply by emailing manninline@manxradio.com or call the answer phone on 682-631 for Chris Stockport tomorrow on Mannin Line. A candidate, says Gaz, for MHK's claim that dental waiting lists have improved. In 2025, Manxcare said it was delighted to have reduced the NHS dental waiting list, but it didn't issue more dental contracts. It simply spread the list across existing practices, increasing waiting times for appointments and treatment at the practices. I don't know whether you've tried to get an NHS appointment lately with your dentist. It's not just emissions. Steve said one of the main reasons for renewable energy is energy independence. People say they're concerned about the economics, but don't seem bothered about handing over hundreds of millions to fossil fuel oligarchs in unstable markets. Which oligarchs are these? If we can generate our own electricity and pump less rubbish into the air, why would we not? It's the movement of direction globally, says Steve. And just be aware, said somebody, there's a Muppet. No, that's the words of this messenger. There's somebody in a cherry picker blocking the junction while they cut the hedge at Glenvine traffic lights. It's chaos. I'm hoping that's gone by now. Not really Kermit, is it, in a cherry picker? All too often, the government departments and local authorities pass the buck. It's the easy option. What's wrong is the civil service passed the buck to basically volunteer commissioners that just get an allowance. I've seen so many times in meetings where the civil service are getting paid, but the local authorities are losing money in their own businesses. The work ethic and sense of achievement needs to be majorly improved. Thanks to Howie on the phones today. Back tomorrow with Manx Care. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
WINT.